We welcome everyone. I'm going to call this meeting to order for November 29th PopTech meeting, and we do have a quorum. Others may be rolling in, but want to kind of make sure we keep this and can move forward. So call the meeting to order and step through introductions. Josh Pope with PAG, Technical Services Director with PAG. Hinsu.
Hinsu No, Modeling Administrator at PAG.
Great. Caroline.
Yeah, it's Caroline from PAG and Statistics Analyst.
Great. Excellent. Elissa with City.
Hi, Elisa Hamblin, Zoning Administrator with Planning and Development Services at the City of Tucson.
Great, thanks, Elisa. Good to see you. Dean.
Civil Engineer, City of Tucson Water Department, Planning and Engineering.
Great. Let's get Malini with Oro Valley, please.
Hi, Malini Sims, Principal Planner with the Town of Oro Valley.
Great. Thanks for joining us today. And we have Steve Morena. Steve may be having some audio issues, but we have Dylan with Sahuarita.
Hi, Dylan Perry with the town of Sahuarita.
Great, thanks for joining. And we have a couple of folks from Pima County. Let's start with Tracy.
Tracy Gutheim, Operations Manager for Pima County Development Services.
Great, thanks for joining us. And Anthony.
Yes, Anthony Batchelder, Pima County Budget Finance Tax Assembly Group.
Great, thanks for joining us. And Mariela.
Here, Pima County Wastewater Senior Planner.
Great. And Steve, are you back? Looks like
Yes.
You're unmuted. Perfect.
Yeah, I am. Thanks. Sorry for the delay. Steve Cheslock, Planning Manager, Town of Marana.
Great. And thanks for joining. And Jim, introduce yourself.
Yeah, Jim Chen, State Demographer with the state of Arizona. We're Office of Economic Opportunity. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And it looks like we also have George Hammond as well.
Hi, George Hammond. I'm at the University of Arizona.
Great. Thank you all for joining us today on such a tight turnaround. I think we can, did I miss anyone? Looks like I got everybody on my screen. If we could proceed to the next slide. We have an in-kind form that I will read you information about. Regional planning efforts are enhanced by recording time donated by attendees, volunteers, and participants. PAG collects data on the time dedicated to meetings and activities to apply for use as matching funds for grants and federal dollars. If you are paid with federal dollars, please let us know now. Time spent in preparation for this meeting will be estimated by PAG staff who are knowledgeable of the agenda and meeting materials. At the conclusion of this meeting, the session report will automatically calculate your time spent in this meeting. Time spent working on PAG RTA initiatives, programs, and special projects may also be eligible for consideration for matching funds. Next slide, please. And with that, we'll jump into presentation. Caroline and Hinsu to talk about the county and sub-county population estimates for July 1st, 2022.
Oh, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the meeting. Okay, today's agenda, I think, is pretty easy. It's just only one topic. We'll talk about the estimate. So mainly we talk about usually we will break in two presentation for the place and for one for place, one for county. But this time we just have one presentation for county and place because we just do everything all together in one setting. What is population estimate? Population basically have two categories. One is the GQ, which is the people live in the GQ facility, which is the people not related, but they're living together in one room, one house, not related. Or household population, which is the people of in family. They are somehow of a family that are related in some point. There's household population. So these two major categories sum up together become a total population. So this year, 2022 population have a little bit different from in the past is because in the past, usually we do the top-down approach to estimate the county population and using the composite method. And then you get the county control and to estimate the place, the sub-county level. But because some of the input data is not very reliable this year, and so we Dr. Chang, the state demographer, decide not to use those data because if it is not reliable and not good data, and you will not get good estimate come out. So he come out with some different method to estimate 2022 population. This time they use the bottom up. That's why he start with the space first to estimate the sub-county population. And then you add from sub-county to become county. You add up all the county population to be a state total. So this is the bottom-up approach, which is different from in the past that with the top-down, you get the composite method to get the county first and then break down to sub-county. So I briefly introduce you the three options that Dr. Chang developed. He proposed three options to us, the CTS member. The option A, it is just purely classic household method, housing unit method, which is using the census as base, whatever census year as the base, and add all the extra housing unit between the census and the current year. So right now, the current year is 2022 is the current year. So the classic method is how many net housing unit increase change between the census 2020 and July 1st, 2022. Within these 27 months, what is the net change for the housing unit? And then you estimate the net change for household population. That is option one, which is just normal, typical housing unit method. Option B, it is basically is option A, the housing unit method, but have a different control factor. Option A don't have control factor, which is basic, it's just one as a control factor because it's bottom down. You use the place, you can estimate individual jurisdiction, individual place, and then you add to county. So there's no control total. But option B, it is using last year 21 control factor, the control total, to apply to 22 estimate. So what happened with the control total is 21 last year, we have also actually the forecast method used the expected the household population for the place. So we get the uncontrolled and controlled population. The control was the state, the county, the Pima County total. And then we add all 6 jurisdictions, which is the Marana, already, Florida, Tucson, all 6 jurisdictions, add together, that is uncontrolled household population because It's two different methods, and so the numbers not exactly the same. When you do the places, you estimate the places population, you add all 6 jurisdictions, become the county total. It will not be the same as the other method, the county total. So you have 2 different county total, but the original method that you estimate the county number, that is used as a control. So you get the control last year, 21 is 1,034,000. But add up all 6 jurisdiction household population, you add up only 1,026,000. So these 2 numbers come up 2 different Pima County total because of 2 different methods. So you get a ratio. You divide the control county total by all the 6 summation of 6 jurisdiction, and come up to this control factor is 1.007895673. And that means each jurisdiction number coming from the housing unit, it will be slightly increased 0.789%. That means each jurisdiction have slightly a little bit larger number than the original calculation of the housing unit method. So that's why it make all 6 jurisdiction summation will match back to the control Pima County total. So this is the that's why last year is the kind of top down. You get the control total and then estimate the sub-county, and then add back to the county. So this is option B. And last year the control factor is 7.89%. I mean 0.789%. So you add a little bit extra. That is option B. Last for this year is using the last year control factor to apply this year housing unit method. So basically using the same option A, everything calculated the same option A, except the multiplier for control factor, instead of using 1 in option A, you're using 1.00789, that control factor in option B. So A and B is same calculation, it's just only multiplier is slightly different. Option C is we use last year 21 population estimate. Using that one, it just add those 12 months housing unit different. So option A is using 2020 as base. You estimate how many new houses, how many houses change between April 2020 to June 2022, those 27 months. What's the housing unit change? And estimate the population change within these 27 months in option A. But option C is only 12 months. You use the 21 as the base. What is the population in 2021? And then you add those 12 months different. The 12 months for housing unit different, and those 12 months household population different. Then add to 21 population to become 2022 population. So let's look at the numbers. This is the housing unit number that we've been collect. So Q2, that means April 1st to June 30, 2020, those 3 months completion for those 6 jurisdictions. And fiscal 2021, it is basically is July 20 to June 21. And then fiscal year 2022, it is July 1st, 21 to June 30, 2022. So we see this 27 months, how many new houses have been completed for each month, each quarter or each fiscal year. So you see the Miranda have net change of 1,958 housing unit for those 27 months, and already have 732, such like that. So this is the change, 27 months change based on April 1st, 2020 census date. And the same concept applied to demolition. sorry. So this is Q2 2020, how many houses demolished for each jurisdiction. And then fiscal year 21 means July 1st, 2020 to June 2021, how many houses demolished, and then how many houses for the next another fiscal years. So you see the total right here, 14 for Marana and 1 for O'Reilly. So this is demolition within these 27 months. And let's look at the net change. So the total completion for these 27 months minus the total demolition, those 27 months, you get the net change for these 27 months for each jurisdiction. We apply this column, the net change this column to our calculation. And when we look at option A.
Before the starting and or discussing about the options and jurisdictional partners, I wonder if you have any questions regarding the option ABC or just the county, the whole jurisdictional partner in the completion and demolitions of a housing unit.
My only question would be with regard to option C, how comfortable are we with the 2021 numbers? I think that's going to be key to understanding the different options.
Well, I think yeah, we can discuss that after we finish the presentation, or you want to talk, Hinshu or Jim, Dr. Cheng want to talk about that now, or you want to look at the numbers first and then we can talk about that after the look at all those three options.
Yeah, if we can go through just the numbers and the options, but just in case, and I'm not sure just if you had a chance to just review the spreadsheet I shared it earlier, and then we found some kind of just the glitches and errors in terms of just reporting to just the AOEO, and especially just the Pima County, and but the version we shared earlier, and especially the Pima County, you will see around this 26 units higher than this number here because of that's accidentally added like a 26 units. So, but this version is actually just corrected.
And that issue was on our end as we were reporting your numbers to AOEO. So it was a mistake that we caused and then we caught, and has been corrected in what you're seeing now, and what AOEO has their hands on now, but there's a slight discrepancy in what you previously was shared with you last week.
Okay, thank you.
So we want to look at all the options and then we can maybe more discussion. Let's look at the option A. So as what you see, this one, E, column E, why housing unit change, is the what I just shared with you in previous slide. In this column, net change, this column is applying right here, this column E. So in option A, using the census as a base, so we got to have this census. I use the term adjust because I just follow Dr. Cheng. He used the term adjust because when you have a CQR, you will have that term adjust because original census number will not be the same after you have a CQR. You're being adjusted for all possible reasons that the census number will be changed, possible change because of CQR and or other reason. So that's why adjusted means it's not the original report. But right now, what our situation in Pima County and also is these 2 years, there's no change, nothing being changed. So the adjusted is the same as original number. At this moment, for this vintage, for 2022 estimate, the adjusted is the same as not before adjusted. It's the same number at this moment. But for the future, sometimes when you see the adjusted, because it could be CQR or other reason, census have to change the base. So this number may not be the same if you have file CQR. So the adjustment means that you get a new base after all those adjustment, all those correction. So this is the census number from April 1st, 2020, the how many housing unit. And this is the household population coming from the report from Census Bureau. So when you divide it, so you get the household population divided by housing unit. So you get the how many people per housing unit. So they call person per housing unit. It is 2.
Caroline, if possible, just would you point out which column you are in?
I think I can't because
No, just the column C, column D,
okay.
or yeah,
okay.
something like that.
Okay, sure. Column C. So column is the housing unit. Column B is the household population. So column C is the B divided by A. So you get person per housing unit. So you get column C is the product. I mean, sorry, after the divided the population by the housing unit. So that you get column C. Column D is the GQ pop that we're going to add it later on. That is the also, so ABD, this 3 column basically is census report. Nothing to do with us, it's just we got the number from Census Bureau and put it right there, ABD. And C is the calculation, is the estimate that how many people per housing unit, even include the vacant. So this is housing unit, it's not household. It is purely just housing unit divided the household population. So it's the person per housing unit, not person per household. Okay, that is to include the vacant housing unit. So column D is a GQ that we were going to add to it later on. We look at the household population, is look at column E now. Is this what we show you how many housing unit change? That is the previous slide, is column E. Okay, column F is the A plus E. So A plus E is total how many housing unit in the inventory in each jurisdiction. So that means Miranda have totally completed housing unit or available housing unit for people to move in or people to live in. It is 23,465. It's a housing unit inventory for Miranda. So like already the same as 24,034 housing unit available to live in. So this is inventory in column F. Column G is this uncontrolled population, which is using the person per housing unit times how many housing unit. So that's why it's column C times column F. It's how many housing unit times person per housing unit to estimate that. In column G, estimated in Miranda have 56,000, already have 48,000. That is the product of column F and C. So H is the control factor, is 1. The reason is because we don't have a control total to calculate, because it's the bottom up. You calculate the paces, you calculate the subcounty first, so that's why it's 1. So there's nothing to adjust, nothing to modify. So it's 1. The end up the column I is the same number as G because it's just 1. Then we add the GQ change. This is the number that we submit to Jim Chan, which we add original, we collect from you guys that are individual facility in each jurisdiction, like the prison, the dormitory. That is a major facility that we keep track with. There's a lot of small facility that we assume they're the same, they don't change the population. So we just keep track if those military dormitory and those prison and the school or college dormitory, which is mainly in Tucson, Marana area. So we collect the those GQ population and submit to Jim Chan. And we collect actually from the very beginning in last 2 years ago, we actually collect April 2020 for those the population for those facilities, same facility. What was April 2020 and what is the population in July 2022, and then compare the change. So the jail obviously have big change because the pandemic. So we lost 219 people in Miranda because the huge change for the facility for the jail, and also the same as the dormitory, the UA dormitory, and get some student is not in the quick houses, or certain dormitory is closed for COVID, and also the jail, the those P. McCarthy jail, they also have some facility change. So this J basically it is compare the census date for those specific facility. What was the April 1st, 2020? What was July 2022? Those within these 2 time period, what was the population change in those particular facilities? So basically, on the whole Pima County, we lost about, we estimate lost about 298 people in the GQ facility, in those specific GQ facilities. So we add together with the original GQ, that is the D is the GQ report from census. J is the change that we estimate for those specific GQ facility, what the change between the census date and 2020, July 2022. So we get the column K is estimate what was the GQ facility for July 1st, 2022. So you get this number in column K for 27,000 for GQ population. So you get GQ population, you get household population in column I. So you add column I household pop plus column K GQ pop to become column L, the total pop. So in Pima County, July 1st, 2022, the population estimated was 1,064,194 people in Pima County for those 6 jurisdictions. That is the number come out from option A using census as the base. Let's look at option B. Same concept. Basically, is an option A concept, except in H, we are no longer in 1 because you have the control factor is slightly larger than 1 from last year, 2021. So you get this control factor, have the same calculation, same number, everything the same. Only difference is column H. You produce a new number for column I because the multiplier is slightly larger. So column I is slightly larger. J and K, no change, same as option A. You have the same number. So the difference in L is because the I different, so the column L is slightly different. So you add up all the numbers together, Pima County is 1,072,382 people in column B. So because of H, you slightly larger. So you just a little bit bigger than column in option A. So let's look at option C. So we actually don't use column A anymore because we don't use column A as the base. But we still need to have a cost person per housing unit. So we still show you this column because you still need to have column C as a multiplier to get the household population. In order to get household population, you need column C there. So that's why I'm just A and B is still purely demonstrate, but that's will not affect the rest of the calculation. Only use it for the calculation of column C. So right here, we look at what was the 2021 household population. So column E is a new numbers right here now. It is, we are looking at 21 household population of last year. And then you build on those 12 months new household population. And so you can see that what's the difference between the net change in column H. The column H is just look at this 12 months. What is net housing unit change? Because F is the completion, G is the demolition for those 12 months, and you get column H for those 12 months net change, and showing here in H. So you get the net change for housing unit, and you times the person per housing unit in column C, then you get the household pop for those 12 months. So you get the estimate for how many extra household pop for those 12 months in column I. So right here in column I, you get extra 10,000 people for whole Pima County. You add these 10,000 people, add to 21 household population in column E to become column J. So this column J, it is uncontrolled population because you never multiply the control factor. So the column J is called uncontrolled population. But column K is control factor, but it's 1 because it is bottom up. You're still building the paces first to build up your county. You are not calculating the county and top down. It is paces down from the bottom, build up. So that's why the factor is still 1. So in column J, you add those extra 12 months, 10,000 people to the 21 household population to become column J, and times the control factor 1 to become column L. So you get the new number for column L for the controlled household pop. You add the GQ on N. So M and N has no change, the same as what you saw before. So you add from L, you add the N, column N, you have column O, that is total population, which is come up to 1,072,298. Let's look at compare those 3 options. I'll give you a very easy comparison. So option A, 2022 population, give you each jurisdiction and Pima County total 1,064,000. And option B, it is 1,072,000. And option C is same, 1,072,000 is slight, only less than 100 people different. So you see that how each option different, or what's the percentage change for each jurisdiction in the percentage change and population change that I show you the comparison. So you can get an idea that what they are different in option A, B, C, how the number different. And so you can think about what I present to you, which option A, B, C would be make sense to you, or which you think that will be better calculation, or what anything that you concern. So
yeah, so please wonder if you have any questions in terms of methodology, some portion if it's not clear, please let us know. And so we'd like to kind of address and how it was calculated correctly and shared with you.
Yeah, this is the last slide. So
and Sue, can you explain what I mean, the initial question was regarding the 2021 population for option C. So can you maybe step back and explain why we should be comfortable with that number?
Yes. So the option A, option B, option C, those 3 and the options are kind of just good in the candidates, but our evaluation and we thought and the option C might be a kind of just good, and in terms of just methodologically, and it's simple and straightforward. based on just the 2021 adopted population. And plus just we don't know much about actual just the control factor 2021 and the fiscal year in the 2022. And so we don't know and the exact number. So, but we also just agree using just any kind of just statistics in the housing, the persons per housing unit from the census, because of the that's the actually just the base, and we don't think there's a significant changes for jurisdictional level. So we are kind of just comfortable and using just the option C in terms of just those three and conservation and.
Do you mind going back one slide?
Okay, you talk about option C slide, right?
Yes, please.
Mhm.
And so the I think the question was kind of looking at
Column
you know,
E, right? Column E
exactly.
is the 21.
And so that controlled household pop, we feel comfortable with that because in that cycle, in last year's cycle, you know, we kind of went through that exercise to update the data. At the time, we made reference to some of the data inputs not being as reliable in this cycle, and that's, correct me if I'm wrong, that's primarily a shift in Arizona ADOT's DMV licensing database. They did a system migration that after reviewing the output of that new system migration, there's a lot of question marks. Is that correct? Is that the main source of uncertainty?
That's right. And because of the usually just the composite method and used, and maybe just the Jim, you can just add additional comments if it's not right. And but the system wide and in the ADOT, the new system actually just it's been lingering in the issues, and also AOEO figured out some just the issues in terms of just having license data and the driver license data.
Right.
That's the actual main kind of a source to estimate the age group and 18 plus and up to just the 65. And so that's, but the chunk actually not reliable. So, and that was the reason in the time, like just using and the different methodology. And but and this and the fiscal year 2021 controlled household population, it was developed at the time, and so this year, and we also had had the issue, so which is actually just decided and based on the bottom up and kind of just methodology. So, but we agreed and approved, and those and not approved and developed by AOEO using just the methodology in the fiscal year 2021, and also discussed through just the pop tech and about just the number of final jurisdictional in the sub-county population estimates.
Tracy, does that address your question, touch on your question? Do we need to go further? Or do you have any other follow-up?
No, my big thing was just understanding whether there was really a belief that 2020 is a better base versus, you know, there were problems with 2020, so we've corrected it in 21, and we feel that's a more firm base on which to build from, because the factors are similar. We're just controlling one variable or another. So right. I'm just was looking for which is the most solid ground to start from.
Right.
Does James want to have any fill in any more information that you can tell us?
There is nothing really new. I may be able to clarify something. So you're discussing, there are two things. There is this year's estimate, and there is also last year's estimate. So the question was if you are comfortable with the last year's estimate. As I remember, we had last year we had a similar issues with the composite method, with the data being problematic because of the system migration with the ADOT data. And that problem, even though we are more than two years away from the migration, we now have the new series of data. We are getting the data every quarter, and we're having questions about the data series because they kind of behave in a strange way. Some quarters, they would consistently going up, and then all of a sudden there is a one quarter, it would just drop by almost $250,000 for the state, and then it will gradually go up again. So until we get a good understanding of what is going on, I just did not feel comfortable using the data, and it's the big chunk of the population, more than half of the population, we did not feel comfortable. That's why we're using this housing unit method. Now, going back to 2021, the method we used was also a hybrid method, and we used the short-term projection. And for Pima County, the control factor was over 1. For some counties, we used the control factor of 1. Pima County turned out to be, I think it's slightly over 1. It's, I think about 0.7% over 1, 0.5 to 0.7. I don't remember exactly. But that the controlled estimate was slightly higher than a pure housing unit method. And I believe we had discussions in our meetings, in the meetings with the Council of Technical Solutions. That's the body that kind of advises me on these matters. And I think Caroline and Hansu also brought the work back to this PAC meeting, and there were discussion. So I think at that time, people felt comfortable with the estimate for Pima County and the sub-county jurisdictions. And I have not heard questions or problem or issues since then. It has been almost a year since the estimates were published. So if that question was, are you comfortable with 2021 estimate? So I think we had about a year to think about that. And I think that did not come up as the problem, as a question. I think the answer should be, I think yes. People felt comfortable. Otherwise, I would have heard about it by this time, right? So also the reason we proposed the C is it's built upon last year's estimate. And if we use A, that basically means what we did for 2021, we're ignoring that. You saw the numbers comparison. If we ignore that, the estimate for this year would be quite a bit lower, several thousand lower than option C. So if we use option B, that means we are carrying over last year's control factor, which it was a one-time adjustment, and without further research, I don't feel very comfortable bringing that over either. But at the end of the day, the difference between option C and option B for Pima County is a difference about 100 people. So it's really not that much different. Like Hansu said, option C seems to be cleaner, more straightforward. We just build from last year and use a housing unit method for the change for fiscal 2022. So that's where we are.
So if you can progress one slide to kind of get to that summary. And, I guess we wanted to be able to bring this to you. And as, Dr. Chang mentioned, the, kind of the advisory component is at a CTS meetings. We appreciate the opportunity to kind of review this within our PopTech committee and kind of share with you. Hinsu is kind of, and Caroline, our liaison to CTS. I mean, that the CTS is open to anyone who wants to attend. Is that correct?
It's open, yeah. We have members, but it's open to the public. PAG is officially a member, so Caroline and Hansu, they attend regularly. I thank you for that. Give me a second.
And Hinsu, your you're feeling after reviewing these numbers with Caroline, you're feeling comfortable with the option C.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we reviewed it carefully, and the methodology also just addressed in the Jim Chang and here as well. So also just discussed earlier about the option ABC with AOEO. So we thought just the option C is the best, and in terms of just the methodological and the perspective, as well as just the foundation. So because of we are comfortable to just use the last year and the estimates, so it's a relatively just straightforward than any other in the just estimation.
And so kind of the big point of this isn't an action item where we're asking folks to vote on it and to make a recommendation. This is to make sure you all have an opportunity to, get comfortable with the process, the data, ask any questions, and so that you have an understanding of kind of how this happens, right? How these estimates are how the data is shared up locally, the permits, AOEO, how that's interpreted, and how these estimates come about. So I guess with that, are there any other questions or that the group may have regarding kind of the option C that AOEO is moving forward with? The one thing to note, and Sue and Jim, the last CTS, yesterday's CTS, the rest of the CTS members across the state also felt comfortable with this method and moving forward. Correct? We're not an outlier here, right?
That's a good statement.
So if you have any questions, raise them now. Drop us a line if you want to have more detailed discussion on it. We'd be happy to follow up. We just wanted to get this opportunity. We really appreciate everyone's time. We've taken a good bit of it on this subject. We do have another meeting coming up, and we are going to be looking at kind of locking that date time down today, tomorrow, and get that invite in the books, I believe for the 15th at 1, in which we're going to be looking at the projections. And again, that's going to kind of set the stage for our long range planning and our TAZ development. And so our spring exercise, so this kind of helps us take that county level control total for population projections. So that too is going to be a tight turnaround. A big variable in that exercise, it goes back to the presentation Hinsu and Caroline presented on regarding the migration numbers and what appears to be a meaningful number for that based on that decline in the natural growth. So migration is going to be accounting for it. So getting some comfort level. As we send materials for the meeting on the 15th, we'll be sure to include a link to that presentation so you all can have a refresher of that information that was shared. But we're going to have there's going to be a tight turnaround again, and really appreciate everyone's patience and availability in this time. We realize it's tough scheduling, but we want to thank you. So I guess we can proceed to the next slide, which address any questions or comments. And I guess, does anybody have any questions or comments about the presentation or the upcoming exercise on the 15th? Okay, well, thank you all for your time. I know this is pretty weedy, getting in some of these details, but we really appreciate the opportunity to present it to you, so you hopefully have some comfort with these numbers and an understanding of them. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop us a line. And I guess with that, we move into the next slide, and we will.
Before you adjourn,
yes, sure, please.
I think in regular meetings you probably say this, but these are still working drafts. They're not published and they're not official yet.
Right.
So if you received the file from Caroline, or if you took a screenshot from there, don't go to a newspaper and talk to them and say, this is our population for July 1st, 2020. So that's a big no-no. Several years ago, I had this happen. Some city talked to reporters, and that was big news to me. Wow, July 1st, 2020 population already published.
Yeah.
So we don't want this to get into the press and make a people make a big deal of it.
And can you share the date in which you will publish these numbers?
December 15th.
Okay.
December 15th is the deadline. We might publish it a day before that, but not much more. But it will on or slightly before the 15th.
Okay, great. And we had that red text for committee review purposes only. Source and reference any published AOE numbers. So yeah, please pay attention to those words from Dr. Chang. So thank you so much for your energy on this and your attention. And we will be seeing you all soon. Take care. With that, I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.